Gazans feel forgotten. What is your reaction when you hear that?
Well, I'm sure that Gazans are very frustrated by being ruled by a theocratic dictatorship which steals billions of dollars for them and instead invests it in a war machine to launch rockets at Israelis and fight futile wars that they can't win. I'm sure they're very frustrated that they don't have better schools and roads and hospitals because Hamas steals that money in order to wage war against Israel. But Hamas's aim hasn't wavered for a single instant. It calls openly and repeatedly not just to destroy Israel, but actually to commit genocide of Jews. And you don't have to believe a spokesman to the Israeli Prime Minister. Go on Google, look at what Hamas leaders like Ismail Haniyeh and Mahmoud Zahar and Yahya Sinwar say. They say that Jews are beasts and cancer and vermin and bacteria, and they should be wiped from the face of the earth. And that's the real tragedy here, is that Hamas has been waging war against Israel, and Israel is doing what any country around the world would do.
Hamas, which has changed its stance recently, and it says now that it's willing to consider a two-state solution.
You know, I don't know if they have the phrase in France. If you believe that, there's a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you. But if you speak Arabic and if you follow their words in Arabic, you'll see people like Ahmed Bahar, the deputy speaker of the parliament, say, count every Jew around the world and kill them all down to the very last one. He said the same thing about Americans. That doesn't exactly sound like somebody who is seeking peace. Yahya Sinwar just said, eat the livers of Israelis. Doesn't sound like somebody who is deeply committed to democracy and peace. So they haven't changed their stance one iota. They're as committed as ever to the total annihilation of Israel. And that's a travesty because it's perpetuating this senseless war against Israel.
Why this use, though, of live ammunition?
Well, when you see tens of thousands of people gathering with the express purpose of annihilating your state, when they've planted bombs along the security fence, shot guns into your territory, and lob dozens of Molotov cocktails at you, I think it makes a lot of sense to stop those people from trying to infiltrate en masse, which was the goal of Hamas. So Israel tried to find the people that were instigating this. This wasn't anything like a protest. In protest, you don't usually chant for the annihilation of a state and try to infiltrate it and overrun it with terrorists, as we saw happen. It's all on video. You can see people planting those bombs and throwing those rockets. And instead of investing money in the people of Gaza, Hamas brutalizes them and threatens them. And that's frankly the reason why many of them came out today.
It's though a bit shocking because we haven't seen a giant run on the border. We saw, yes, Palestinians lobbing those Molotov cocktails and throwing burning tires at Israeli soldiers, but there wasn't a massive run on the border.
Well, the main reason that there wasn't a massive run is because there were Israeli soldiers there protecting the communities right behind them. I saw the proximity today. I've just come from the Gaza border right now. It's a few football fields away from one another, and thank goodness we didn't see thousands of people streaming in, but that's exactly what they said they were going to do. I spoke to journalists down there who said, yeah, I spoke to these people, and they said we are going to overrun the border, so we should all be thankful that that didn't happen. But Hamas has already lobbed tens of thousands of missiles at Israel, dug terror tunnels under it, dispatched suicide bombers, and speak openly about their desire to annihilate Israel from the face of the earth.
If I could just put a question here, it's Robert Parsons speaking here. I suppose the question really is the use of live ammunition. Was it absolutely necessary to use live ammunition when the vast majority of those involved were not a threat to the border, and even those who were threatening the border were not that close to the soldiers to pose a real threat to them?
Well, I hope it's never your son or daughter sitting right there a few hundred meters away from Molotov cocktails. You don't need to wait till the knife is on your throat, in order to take action. And that's exactly what Israel did. It didn't touch a hair on the head of most people who were very far away from the fence, and none of this would have had to happen had Hamas said, do not approach the fence, do not try to infiltrate Israel. And frankly, had Hamas not used little children and women as human shields, you know, they sent a 7-year-old girl. She was wearing a pink Minnie Mouse sweatsuit, and they sent her across the border because they were hoping she'd be shot. Of course, Israel didn't shoot her. It brought her back to her parents, but that says everything you need to know about this terrorist mass murdering organization. They placed their headquarters in the Shifa hospital in the last war. They're cowardly hiding behind women and children. It's absolutely outrageous. And so the onus of responsibility is squarely on that theocratic, totalitarian, terrorist organization which openly calls for the destruction of Israel and seeks genocide against Jews and has called for mass murder of Americans as well.
David,